I knew I should have eaten breakfast. That stupid thought kept looping in my head while I stared at the screen in front of me. The numbers on the spreadsheet were starting to blur together. My stomach made a low, painful sound, and I pressed my hand against it like that could make the hunger go away. Around me, the office sounded like it always did. Phones ringing, people talking in low voices, keyboards clicking in steady rhythms. Nobody noticed me in the corner. I was just the quiet admin who handled forms, schedules, and whatever else people did not want to deal with. I liked it that way. Invisible felt safe. The clock on my monitor said 11:53. 7 minutes to lunch. My blue lunchbox was under my desk, tucked near my feet like a secret. I had packed it last night in my tiny kitchen, standing under the one working light bulb. The other bulb had burned out 2 weeks ago, and I still had not replaced it. Every dollar had a job right now, and extra light was not on the list. Inside the lunchbox was vegetable soup I had made on Sunday, a small container of rice, and a single pear. The pear was supposed to last me until tomorrow. To make sure I did not cheat, I had written myself a note on a torn piece of paper towel and laid it on top of everything. Eat the pear last. Save the soup for tonight. I always wrote myself notes like that. Little rules, little plans. It was the only way I knew how to survive. Up on the top floor, in an office I had never even stepped into, my boss's boss's boss stood by a wall of glass and looked out at the city. Her name was Victoria Chun, the CEO. I had seen her maybe 5 times in person. She always moved like she was late for something important, wearing sharp suits that looked like they belonged in magazines. Her black hair was always pulled back perfectly. People straightened up when she walked by, like her presence alone could affect their paychecks. In my head, she was another part of the building, like the elevators or the security system. Powerful, distant, and way above anything to do with me. At noon exactly, I grabbed my lunchbox and walked to the break room. My legs felt a little weak, but I moved slow so I would not look desperate. The room was almost empty when I got there. A few people were throwing away trash, grabbing coffee, heading outside. I went to my usual spot by the window. The table in the corner nobody liked because the air vent above it made a soft, rattling sound. I set my lunchbox down and turned to grab a napkin from the counter. That was when she walked in. I did not see her at first. My back was turned while I searched for a clean napkin in the stack. But she saw my lunchbox. Later, I would replay this moment in my mind, trying to imagine how it looked from her side. A polished, modern break room with its stainless steel machines and smooth granite counters. And in the middle of it, my old, faded blue lunchbox. I had owned that lunchbox for years. The fabric was worn thin in some spots. The clasp had broken months ago, so I had fixed it myself with blue thread that did not quite match. The stitching was messy and crooked because I had done it at midnight, half asleep, but it worked. That was what mattered. For some reason, it caught her attention. Victoria stopped walking. She stared at the lunchbox like it was something strange that did not belong in her world. Maybe it was the rough stitching. Maybe it was how small and light it looked. Maybe it was just that she was restless that day and needed something, anything to focus on besides more emails and more reports. Whatever the reason, she walked closer. She knew she should not touch it. It was clearly someone's lunch. But her hand reached out anyway. She picked it up. The fabric felt soft and tired under her fingers. It was lighter than she expected. She should have put it down. Instead, she opened it. When I turned back around with a napkin in my hand, my brain needed a second to understand what I was seeing. The CEO of the company was standing at my table, holding my open lunchbox. Inside, the small plastic container of soup, the little scoop of rice, the single pear, and on top of everything, the folded paper towel with my handwriting in cheap blue ink. Eat the pear last. Save the soup for tonight. Her eyes were on that note. She was reading it over and over. Her face did not show anger or annoyance. It showed something worse. Awareness. My heart slammed against my ribs. Heat rushed to my face, then drained away so fast I felt dizzy. "I am so sorry," I blurted out. My voice cracked. "That is mine!" I did not mean to leave it there. Victoria turned and looked at me. Her eyes were a deep, dark brown, sharp and focused. Up close, she did not look like a building or a system. She looked like a person who had just seen something she was not prepared to see. "I was just moving it," she said. Her voice was calmer than I expected, quiet but steady. I did not mean to open it. But she had opened it. She had read my note. She knew. There was no way to undo that. I stepped forward and held out my hands. She placed the lunchbox back into them. She did it carefully, like she was returning something fragile and important. Our fingers almost touched. I pulled back a little too fast. "It is okay," I said, even though it was not. "Thank you." I could not look at her again. I grabbed my lunchbox and walked out of the break room. My legs felt stiff and shaky at the same time. I focused on putting one foot in front of the other. Do not run. Do not cry. Do not fall. I made it to the bathroom and locked myself in a stall. I sat down on the closed toilet seat, still holding the lunchbox against my chest like a shield. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. Of all the people in this building, she had to be the one to see. 3 floors above, in her huge office with the city stretched out below, Victoria was still thinking about my lunchbox. She could see it clearly in her mind. The worn fabric, the broken clasp with the messy repair, the small, careful portions inside, and that note, "Eat the pear last. Save the soup for tonight." She had looked at pay data 1,000 times. She had approved budgets, signed off on salaries, reviewed reports. But numbers on a screen had never looked like that lunchbox. That little meal was not about income brackets or cost of living. It was a survival plan written in pen on a piece of paper towel. She sat down at her desk and opened her laptop. She pulled up the employee directory and started scrolling. She told herself she was just curious who the lunchbox belonged to. She found my picture. I remembered the day they took it. I had tried to smile, but I looked nervous in the photo. The kind of nervous that came from never feeling fully safe anywhere. Under the picture was my name, my title, my hire date. Administrative assistant. Level 1. 15 months with the company. Decent reviews. No complaints. Average. Unremarkable. Then she clicked on my salary. Her stomach dropped. She had seen that number before. She had approved it as part of a larger chart filled with other numbers. But this time, the number had a face and a blue lunchbox, and a note about soup and a pear. That number was my life. Downstairs, I finally forced myself out of the stall. I washed my face with cold water at the sink and looked in the mirror. My skin looked pale. There were faint, dark circles under my eyes that I had stopped noticing weeks ago. "It is fine," I whispered to myself. "You are fine. Just work. Just get through today." I walked back to my desk. My computer screen had gone to sleep. I woke it up and stared at the 41 new emails waiting for me. The words blurred at first, but I forced myself to focus. One email at a time. One task at a time. That was how I had made it this far. That afternoon, my stomach growled again. I ignored it. The soup stayed in my lunchbox. The pear stayed untouched. The note stayed folded on top, reminding me of the plan. Save the soup for tonight. Across the building, Victoria sat at her huge desk with an untouched salad from some fancy place near the office. She was not hungry. Every time she looked at the fork, the image of my lunchbox shoved it away. She thought about the years before she had money. Cheap instant noodles, unpaid bills, shoes that were too worn but had to last one more season. Somewhere along the road from there to here, she had stopped seeing people like that. She had stopped seeing people like me. For the rest of the day, we worked in the same building, on different floors, under the same roof. I tried to act like nothing had changed. She knew that everything had. I did not know it at the time, but while I was forcing myself to answer emails and pretend nothing had happened, Victoria was upstairs looking me up in the system. Later, she would tell me how she found my picture, my job title, my salary, and how that number looked different in her head after seeing my lunchbox. That day, though, all I knew was that I felt exposed. For the rest of the afternoon, my skin felt too tight. Every sound made me jump a little. I tried to work like normal, but my mind kept flashing back to her eyes on that note. Eat the pear last. Save the soup for tonight. I wished I could go back in time and write something normal. Something that did not scream, "This person is barely getting by." When 5 o'clock finally came, I packed up fast. I kept my head down as I walked out of the building and onto the street. The air in downtown Seattle felt cool against my hot face. I climbed onto the bus and took my usual seat near the back by the window. The ride home was 45 minutes of dirty glass, traffic, and strangers' conversations. I held my lunchbox on my lap the whole way, my fingers tight around the handle. I knew it was just an old box, but it felt like a piece of my life I had not meant to share. My apartment was a small one-bedroom I shared with my roommate Alicia. She worked nights as a nurse at a hospital, so most days we were like ghosts passing each other. That made some things easier. Easier to hide how little food sat on my side of the fridge. Easier to pretend I was doing fine. I heated the soup in a small pot and ate it slowly at the wobbly kitchen table. The room was quiet except for the hum of the old fridge and the sound of cars outside. The soup was thin but warm. I finished every drop, rinsed the container, and set it on the counter to dry. Tomorrow I would pack it again with whatever I could put together. The next morning I woke up before my alarm. For a few seconds I forgot about the break room. Then my brain caught up, and a heavy weight settled in my chest. I got ready in the dark so I would not wake Alicia. I packed my lunch again at the little counter. Leftover rice. The pear I had saved. A small container of soup. I wrote a new note on a piece of paper towel. Pear after work. Soup for tomorrow. I folded it and laid it on top. Then I put everything in the lunchbox and closed it carefully. At the office, I walked in with my shoulders a little tighter than usual. I was hoping the day would be normal, that yesterday had been a strange, one-time nightmare. That hope lasted about 10 seconds. Because when I stepped off the elevator onto my floor, Victoria was there. She never came to our floor in the morning. Her office was 3 levels up. She had her own kitchen and coffee machine up there. But now she was standing near the copy machine, talking quietly with someone from HR. I tried to walk straight to my desk without drawing any attention, but she looked up. For 1 second our eyes met. My heart jumped in my throat. She looked away first, turning back to her conversation like nothing happened. I sat down fast and turned on my computer. My hands shook as I typed in my password. All morning I had the same feeling over and over, the feeling of being watched. Every time I glanced toward the hallway, I saw her somewhere. Getting coffee, talking to a manager, walking past the cubicles like she suddenly cared about this floor. She never looked directly at me, but she was close enough that she could have. At 10:15, a new girl named Maya came to my desk. Her eyes were wide and nervous. "I am sorry to bother you," she said. "I cannot figure out the shared drive. My supervisor showed me yesterday, but I already forgot." "It is okay," I said. "Everyone forgets at the start. Here, I will show you." I walked her through the system step by step. I wrote the directions down on a sticky note in big clear letters. She kept saying thank you, like I was doing something huge, but to me it was nothing. Just helping someone who looked like she was about to cry. While I was doing that, I felt a familiar weight in the air, like someone important had walked close by. Later, I would find out that Victoria was standing in the hallway, watching the whole time. For the next 3 days, it went on like that. I refilled the paper in the printer. I helped Jordan from sales get coffee stains out of his shirt with the stain stick I kept in my drawer. I stayed late one night to help Kevin finish a report after his manager had yelled at him in front of the whole team. Every time I turned around, it felt like Victoria was somewhere nearby. By the water cooler, near the elevator, passing by the open doorway to our department. She never spoke to me. She just kept showing up on our floor. By Friday afternoon, my nerves were raw. Right after lunch, an announcement went up on the bulletin board in the break room. A new position had opened. Team Supervisor. Better pay, better hours, a chance to move up. I stood there, reading the description while my heart started beating faster. This job could change things for me. More money meant I could actually buy groceries without counting every piece of fruit. It meant maybe replacing the burned-out light bulb. It meant breathing a little easier at the end of each month. Then Daniel walked up beside me. He had 2 kids. Their drawings were pinned all over his cubicle walls. Last week he had mentioned his daughter needed braces. A few minutes later, Priya from accounting stood on my other side. I had overheard her talking quietly on the phone about her dad's medical bills. I looked at the posting again. Then I walked away. That same afternoon, an email popped up on my screen from versus Chun at subject, "Please come to my office at 3 o'clock. My hands went cold. There were no details, no hint of what it was about. I rode the elevator to the top floor, feeling like I was being carried to some kind of judgment. Her office looked even bigger from the inside. The whole wall of glass showed Seattle laid out in gray and blue. Her desk was huge and perfect. Everything in the room looked sharp and expensive. "Please sit," she said. I sat, trying to keep my hands still in my lap. "I noticed you did not apply for the supervisor position," she said. My throat felt dry. "No, ma'am, I did not." "Why not?" she asked. "You meet all the requirements. Your reviews are strong. You would do well in that role." I swallowed. "Other people need it more than I do," I said. "Daniel has 2 kids. Priya is helping her parents with hospital costs. Kevin is still trying to prove himself after that meeting last week. They need the raise more." "And you do not need money?" she asked. The question hit me like a spotlight. I stared at my hands. "Everyone needs money," I said slowly. "But I can wait." "Can you?" she asked. Her eyes dropped to my hands. I realized I was gripping the edge of the chair. I forced myself to let go. "I am fine," I said quietly. She watched me for a long time. The room felt too bright. I wanted to shrink into the floor. "Why do you give so much when you have so little?" she asked. Nobody had ever asked me that before. Not like that. Not straight to my face. I thought about the stain stick. The notes I wrote for Maya. The way I had walked away from that job posting. "It is not about what I have," I said at last. "It is about what I can do. I can help someone find files. I can share a stain remover. I can let other people try for a promotion they need more. Those things do not cost me anything that matters." She leaned back slowly, like I had said something she did not expect. "Everything costs something," she said. "Not the things that matter most." I answered. We stared at each other for a few seconds. Then she nodded once. "You can go," she said. I stood up and walked toward the door. My heart was still racing. My back felt damp with sweat. Just before I stepped out, she spoke again. "Thank you for being honest," she said. I nodded without turning around and left. The next 2 weeks were strange. Little things in the office started changing. There were new signs in the kitchen. Free fruit baskets on the counter. Better coffee. Overtime pay went up. HR announced improvements to health coverage. People whispered in the hallways, wondering what had happened. Wondering why the CEO suddenly cared about snacks and schedules and small details. I noticed all of it. I also noticed I was starting to pull away from her. I stopped taking the elevator when I could. I took the stairs instead, even when my legs were tired. I kept my emails to her short and flat. Yes, done, attached. I did not look at her when she passed my desk. I did not know exactly what I was afraid of. Maybe I was scared of needing something from her. Maybe I did not want to feel like a project she had taken on. Then one morning, I came in and reached under my desk for my lunchbox. It was gone. My whole body went cold. I checked again, moving cords and bags. Nothing. I searched the break room. I asked the cleaning staff if they had moved it. No one had seen it. It was just an old blue box, but my chest hurt like I had lost a friend. Right before lunch, I found a folded note on my keyboard. "Meet me in the break room at noon." Her handwriting was clean and neat. My first thought was to ignore it. My second thought was the empty space under my desk. At noon, I walked to the break room. Victoria was standing by the window. In her hands was my blue lunchbox, cleaned and held like something fragile. I froze. She turned when she heard me. Without a word, she walked over and held it out. I took it slowly. The fabric felt the same, but different. Someone had wiped away the stains. The broken clasp moved smoothly now. My messy stitching was still there, but it had been reinforced with clean, strong thread. "You took it," I said. "I did," she said. "I am sorry. I should have asked. I just wanted to fix it, not replace it. Just fix it." I unzipped it. Inside were my usual containers: rice, soup, the pear. On top was a folded piece of paper towel. New handwriting, her handwriting. "Eat now. You do not have to save everything for later." My throat tightened. "Why did you not just talk to me?" I asked. "Why have you been watching me from far away? Why fix the whole company and my lunchbox instead of just helping me?" She was quiet for a moment. "Because I did not want you to feel like charity," she said. "I did not want to make you a special case. When I started paying attention to you, I saw how many people here were struggling. It was not just you. I had been ignoring it for years. You made me see it." Quote. I sat down at the table, still holding the lunchbox. "I feel like an experiment," I said. "Like you have been studying me." "That is fair," she said, sitting across from me. "I understand why it feels that way, but it is not the whole truth. I started watching because I was curious. I kept watching because I care." "How am I supposed to know the difference?" I asked. "How am I supposed to trust that this is real and not just guilt?" "You do not have to trust me yet," she said. "You do not owe me that. I will wait." We sat in silence. Somewhere down the hall, someone laughed. A coffee machine hissed. The world went on. "This does not fix everything," I said at last, touching the edge of the note with one finger. "I know," she said. "But the note," I added, my voice softer, "it means something. Not everything, but something." A small, careful smile touched her mouth. "For now," she said, "that is enough." Quote. I put the note back into the lunchbox, closed the zipper, and wondered when exactly my CEO had stopped being just a distant name on my paycheck and started becoming someone I was afraid to let in and even more afraid to push away. 3 months passed. Most of that time, I watched Victoria from a distance, the same way she had watched me. I saw her carry heavy boxes up the stairs for the mailroom guy when the elevator broke. I saw her stop in the hallway to listen when an intern looked lost and scared. I saw her stay late to fix a scheduling mess that was not her fault so the night staff would not get blamed. She started eating lunch in her office with the door open. People could see her. Sometimes they even stepped in to ask questions. She did not snap at them. She listened. The company kept changing too. Small things at first, then bigger ones. The free fruit stayed. Health coverage improved again. A hardship fund appeared in an email, quietly offering help to anyone dealing with sudden bills. Nobody said it was because of me, and I was glad. But I knew the timing was not random. Slowly, against my will, I started to believe her. Maybe she did care. Maybe that note in my lunchbox had not been guilt. Maybe it had been the start of something real. One Tuesday afternoon in late autumn, I found another note on my desk. "I will be eating lunch outside on the bench near the fountain at noon tomorrow. You are welcome to join me if you want. No pressure." My first reaction was to crumple it up. My second reaction was to smooth it out and read it again. Then I folded it and slipped it into my pocket. The next day, around 11:55, I stood by the big window on our floor and looked down at the street. The bench by the fountain was empty, just a gray shape in the middle of moving people. My lunchbox sat on my desk behind me, same as always. I could stay at my desk and pretend I never saw the note. That would be safer. That would keep my life simple, or at least simple on the surface. Instead, I grabbed my lunchbox and headed for the elevator. The air outside was cool and smelled like wet leaves. I walked across the street and sat on the bench. The fountain made a soft, splashing sound. Cars passed. People hurried by on their phones. Victoria showed up 2 minutes later. She wore a dark coat over her suit and carried a plain brown paper bag, not the usual sleek containers from the fancy restaurant. She sat down at the other end of the bench, leaving a respectful gap between us. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I was not sure I would," I answered honestly. "I was not sure you would either," she said. We opened our lunches. Mine was rice and soup again, packed into the same containers. Hers was a simple sandwich, an apple, and a bottle of water. No garnish, no careful arrangement. Just food. We ate in silence for a while. Just two people on a bench, chewing. It felt strange and normal at the same time. Finally, she spoke. "I have been thinking about the first time I saw your lunchbox," she said. "About that note. Save the soup for tonight. It bothered me for days." "Because it made you feel guilty?" I asked. "Because it reminded me of myself," she said. "A long time ago. When I was first starting out, I lived on instant noodles and peanut butter sandwiches. I used to cut candy bars in half and save them for later. I promised myself that when I finally made it, I would never forget what that felt like." She took a breath. "Then I did forget," she said softly. "Until I opened your lunch by accident. It was like someone shook me awake." I stared at my rice for a moment, then looked at her. "I did not write that note to make anyone feel anything," I said. "I did it because I know how I get when I am tired and hungry. I need rules. If I do not make a plan, I end up with nothing at the end of the week." "I know that," she said. "That is why it mattered. You were not asking anyone to save you. You were saving yourself." We finished eating in a slow, quiet rhythm. When my lunchbox was empty, she glanced at the fountain. "Do you want to walk a little?" she asked. "There is a park around the corner." I hesitated, then nodded. We walked through the small city park a block away. The trees were losing their leaves in shades of yellow and red. Kids played on a metal slide that squeaked. A man threw a ball for his dog. The world felt softer here, away from the glass towers and buzzing phones. "I need to tell you something," Victoria said, stopping on the path. My stomach clenched. "Okay," I said. She looked straight ahead when she spoke, not at me. "I started watching you because I was curious," she said. "I kept watching because I could not stop thinking about the way you move through the world. The way you help people without being asked. The way you give, even when you do not have much to spare." Somewhere in the middle of all of that, I realized I had started to care too much for it to just be curiosity. She finally turned her head and met my eyes. "I fell in love with you before I knew you were struggling," she said. "Before the lunchbox, before I saw the note. It started the first time I saw you stop to help someone, when you did not have to. My feelings did not start as pity, they started as respect." My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. "I am your employee," I said. "You are my CEO." Quote. "I know," she said. "That is why I stayed away. That is why I tried to fix the company instead of coming to you. I did not want you to feel trapped. I did not want you to think I expected anything." I thought back to all those days she had watched from doorways and hallways. The fixed lunchbox, the note, the changes in the building. I took a slow breath. "When you wrote that note and put it in my lunch," I said, "that was when something changed for me." It was small, but it felt big. For the first time, I felt like someone with power saw me, not as a charity case or a number, but as a person making choices. "You did not replace my lunchbox. You fixed it. You left my messy stitching, and you added your own." That meant something. We stood facing each other on the path, with fallen leaves around our shoes. "What do you want now?" she asked. Her voice was quiet, but there was a kind of fear in it. Not fear of me, but fear of the answer. I thought about my apartment and my notes. About the blue lunchbox in the break room that started this whole thing. About the feeling in my chest every time I realized she was on our floor, watching without pushing. "I do not want anyone to rescue me," I said. "I do not want to belong to someone who thinks they are above me. I want to build something real with someone who sees me as equal. Even if they have more money. Even if they have more power on paper, I do not want to lose myself in the middle of it." She nodded slowly. "That sounds right," she said. "I do not need someone who depends on me. I need someone who will stop me when I forget who I said I wanted to be. Someone who will tell me the truth even when it hurts." "Are you sure you want that from me?" I asked. "You are the only one I want it from," she said. A breeze moved through the trees. A leaf drifted down between us and landed on the path. We cannot pretend this is simple, I said. People will talk. There are rules. There is power between us whether we want it or not. I know, she said. If this goes anywhere, I will step back from any direct control over your job. I will put things in writing, so you are protected. I will do whatever I need to do to make sure you are free to walk away if you ever want to. You would really do that? I asked. Yes, she said. Because if this is going to be anything, it has to be your choice as much as mine. I am not interested in owning you. I am interested in choosing you. My throat felt tight. I did not give her an answer right away. I needed to feel what the fear was, and what the hope was, and see which one was louder. Right then, they were about the same. We walked back to the office together in silence. Our shoulders almost touched but did not. The fountain came back into view. The glass building rose ahead of us. At the door, she stopped. I meant what I said in the break room, she said. I will wait. You do not have to decide everything today. I nodded. Inside, the lobby was bright and cold. People passed us with coffee cups and key cards, not realizing that something huge had just shifted in the space between us. I went back to my floor. She went back to hers. For the rest of the day, we did not look at each other. We answered emails. We went to meetings. We acted like any other CEO and any other admin. But every time my hand brushed the handle of my lunchbox under my desk, I remembered her words in the park. I fell in love with you before I knew you were struggling. And for the first time, I let myself ask the question I had been too scared to think all the way through. What if I was starting to fall in love with her too? I did not give her an answer that week. Or the week after. Instead, I watched. I watched the way she talked to people in meetings. I watched the way she corrected managers when they spoke to staff like we were replaceable. I watched her come in early and stay late, not because she wanted to impress anyone, but because she was trying to rebuild something she had broken without knowing it. She kept her promise. She did not push. We still had to talk about work sometimes. She would send an email. I would respond. Professional, short, clean. But every time I saw her name in my inbox, I felt that same mix of fear and warmth. One afternoon, an email came from HR addressed to the whole company. It said there would be changes in reporting lines and ethics policies. It said the CEO would no longer be involved in individual performance decisions or pay raises. Those choices would go through a panel instead of one person. I read it twice. It did not say my name. It did not mention anything personal. But I knew who it was for. She was moving power away from herself, not just for me, but for everyone. It made the building feel a little more balanced. 2 weeks later, there was another note on my desk. I will be in the small conference room on the 9th floor at noon tomorrow. I want to talk about something important. If you come, I promise it will not be about work. My heart beat in my throat as I read it. The next day, I took the stairs to the 9th floor. My legs felt heavy. I stopped outside the conference room door and almost turned around. Then I remembered the way she had looked at me in the park. Not like I was someone she could control, but like I was someone she was asking to choose. I opened the door. The room was small, with a round table and 4 chairs. Light came in from a long window on one wall. Victoria was there already, sitting with her hands folded on the table. She stood when she saw me, then seemed to catch herself and sat back down. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I said I would think about things," I answered. "I am still thinking." "That is okay," she said. "I am not here to ask you for an answer. I am here because there is something I need to do on my side, no matter what you decide." She slid a folder across the table. "What is that?" I asked. "Documentation," she said. "I have recused myself from any decisions about your department. Raises, reviews, promotions, anything. It is in writing with HR and the board. If you ever feel pressured by me, you can go straight to them. If we ever decide to try anything outside of this building, I want you to know that inside it you are protected. I opened the folder. There it was, in plain language. Her name removed from my chain of command. A panel added. Extra steps so no one could say I was given anything because of her. This is a lot, I said. I know, she said. But if there is even a chance that you might want this, I do not ever want you to wonder if you are trapped. You are not. You can walk away from me at any time and still keep your job. Why would you give up that kind of control? I asked. Because if I did not, she said quietly, then no matter what you felt, I would still have more power than I should. And I do not want power with you. I want honesty. The room was so quiet I could hear the air vent humming. I thought about all the nights I had gone home and eaten soup by myself at that tiny table. I thought about all the times I had helped people and told myself it did not matter if no one ever noticed. I thought about the lunchbox, the notes, the way she had fixed the stitch without replacing it. You said something in the park, I said slowly. You said you fell in love with me before you knew about my struggles. Yes, she said. I do not know exactly when it happened for me, I said. But somewhere between the break room and that bench by the fountain, I started falling in love with you too. Quote, she did not move, but I saw her hand tighten slightly on the edge of the table. I am still scared, I added. I am scared of people talking. I am scared of needing someone this much. I am scared of what it will feel like if it ends. Me too, she said. I am scared of all the same things. I nodded once. But I am more scared of going back to feeling invisible, I said. Back to living like my only job is to survive. When you wrote that note and put it in my lunch, it was the first time in a long time that someone told me I did not have to save everything for later. That it was okay to have something now. I closed the folder. I want to try, I said, slowly, carefully, out in the open, as much as we can. I do not want a secret. I want a real life. Her eyes filled with tears she did not let fall. She stood up, walked around the table, and stopped in front of me. Can I hug you? She asked. Yes, I said. She wrapped her arms around me. It was not a dramatic hug. It was warm and steady, like a promise. I held on, feeling the weight I had been carrying start to shift, just a little. We decided some things that day. We decided we would not touch at work, except for simple normal things like a handshake if we had to. We decided we would keep HR informed, so everything was documented. We decided to meet outside the building for anything that was ours and not the company's. We started small. Coffee on a Saturday morning at a quiet place by the lake. A walk through a farmer's market where no one knew our names. Dinner at a little restaurant on a side street where the staff treated us like any other pair. We talked a lot. About her childhood. About mine. About the first business she lost and the one she built after. About my family far away and the money I sent when I could. About all the times we had both chosen work over sleep or health or joy. Weeks turned into months. People at work noticed that things were different, but not how. They saw that the CEO was on our floor more often. They saw that I seemed less tired, even though I was still working hard. They saw small, steady changes in how the company treated its people. One day, I came into the building and saw something new in the lobby. On the wall, in a glass case, sat my blue lunchbox. It looked almost the same as when I had carried it every day. Same faded fabric. Same repaired clasp. The stitches she had added were still neat and strong. Below it was a small metal plaque. It said, "A reminder that the smallest things can show us what we have stopped seeing. That people are more than numbers. That kindness is not weakness. No names, no story. Just that." I stood there for a long time. When I finally went upstairs, I walked straight to her office. The door was open. She looked up when I came in. "You did that?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "Why?" "Because that is where everything changed for me," she said. "Not in a board meeting. Not in a big deal. In a break room with an old lunchbox and a note on a paper towel. I wanted everyone who works here to remember that what looks small on paper can be someone's whole world." I stepped closer to her desk. "I never wanted to be your symbol," I said. "You are not," she answered. "You are my partner. The lunchbox is our reminder." "Our?" I asked. She smiled. "Do you think I learned all of this alone?" she said. "You taught me most of it. I am just putting it on the wall." That night, I went home and packed my lunch for the next day, not because I had to. Money was a little better now. I had gotten a small, fair raise that had nothing to do with her and everything to do with the work I did. I still wrote myself a note out of habit. But this one was different. Eat what you need. You are allowed to feel full. The next day, I met Victoria at lunch. Not in the break room this time, and not in secret. We sat in a booth at a small diner a few blocks away. She ordered soup. I ordered a sandwich and fries. Both, without feeling guilty. We talked and ate and laughed. At one point, she reached across the table and took my hand. I did not pull away. "You know what the strangest part of all this is?" I asked. "What?" she said. "It started with you opening my lunch," I said. "I felt like you were seeing the worst part of my life. Now I think maybe you were seeing the truest part, and instead of turning away, you stayed." She squeezed my hand gently. "You did the same for me," she said. "You saw the part of me that had forgotten how to care, and you did not walk away either." Outside the window, the city moved. People went to work, to lunch, to meetings. Cars honked. A bus rolled by. Inside the diner, it was just us. I was not just surviving anymore. I was choosing. I was chosen. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt full.